This is Joe Jackson, English musician, singer, and songwriter. Now, if you're looking for an incredible crossover artist, someone that's recorded 21 studio albums and also received 5 Grammy Award nominations, you came to the right place. This video will examine the life and music of Joe Jackson. Welcome back to my channel. David Ian Joe Jackson, born the 11th of August 1954, is an English musician, singer, and songwriter. He was born on Burton-on-Trent, Staffordshire, England. David Jackson spent his first year in nearby Swadlincote, Derbyshire. He grew up in the Paulsgrove area of Portsmouth, where he attended Portsmouth Technical High School. Jackson's parents moved to nearby Gosport when he was a teenager. He learned to play the violin, but soon switched to the piano and insisted to his father that they install one in the hall of their Paulsgrove council house. Jackson began playing piano in bars when he was 16 and won a scholarship to study musical composition at the London Royal Academy of Music. Jackson's first band, formed in Gosport, was called Edward Bear, later renamed Arms and Legs. The band broke up in 1976 after 2 unsuccessful singles. He was still known as David Jackson when he joined Arms and Legs, but picked up the nickname Joe based on his perceived resemblance to the British television puppet character Joe 90, a genius child spy. Jackson legally changed his name to Joe at the age of 20. Jackson then spent some time performing on the cabaret circuit to make money to record a demo. In 1978, a record producer heard Jackson's demo tape and signed him to A&M Records. The next year, the newly formed Joe Jackson Band released their debut album, Look Sharp. The band consisted of Jackson, Gary Sanford on guitar, Graham Mabey on bass, and David Houghton on drums. A mix of rock, melodic jazz, and new wave. It mined a vein similar to contemporaries like Elvis Costello and Graham Parker. The album enjoyed wide critical success. In 2013, Rolling Stone magazine named Look Sharp number 98 in the list of the 100 best debut albums of all time. Some commercial success also followed as the debut single, Is She Really Going Out With Him, reached the top 40 in 5 countries and number 9 in Canada. The Joe Jackson Band released I'm the Man in 1979. The album followed a similar musical pattern. Further, it received good, though not as strong reviews. It did produce a single, It's Different for Girls, which became Jackson's highest charting UK single, peaking at number 5. Beat Crazy followed in 1980. Jackson also collaborated with Lincoln Thompson in reggae crossover. The Joe Jackson Band toured extensively until it broke up at the end of 1980. Houghton, weary of touring and fame, left the band that year. Though Mabey would continue to work with Jackson in the following decades, the full band would not reunite until 2004's Volume 4. In 1981, Jackson produced an album for the British power pop group The Keys. The Keys album was the group's only LP. After the Joe Jackson Band disbanded, Jackson recorded Jump and Jive, an album of old-style swing and blues tunes. It included songs by Gabe Calloway, Lester Young, Glenn Miller, and Louis Jordan. The album and associated single release were credited to Joe Jackson's Jump and Jive. Jackson's 1982 album, Night and Day, was his only studio album to chart in the UK and US top 10, peaking at number 3 in the UK and at number 4 in the US. 2 singles released from the album, Steppin Out and Breaking Us in Two, were US top 20 hits. By 1984, New York had become Jackson's home base. He recorded Body and Soul there, an album he later said was from the viewpoint of a relative newcomer. Heavily influenced by pop, jazz standards, and salsa, it had the US number 15 hit single, You Can't Get What You Want Till You Know What You Want. In 1985, Jackson played piano on Joan Armatrading's album Secrets, Secrets, and in 1986 he collaborated with Suzanne Vega on the single Left of Center from Pretty in Pink's soundtrack. Jackson's next album was Big World, with all new songs recorded live in front of an audience instructed to remain silent while music was playing. Released in 1986, it was a 3-sided double record. The 4th side consisted of a single, Centering Groove, and label stating, There's no music on this side. The instrumental album Willpower in 1987, with heavy classical and jazz influences, set the stage for things to come later, but before Jackson left pop behind, he released 2 more albums, Blaze of Glory, which he performed in its entirety during the subsequent tour, and Laughter and Lust. In 1995, Jackson contributed his version of Statue of Liberty on a tribute album for the English band XTC called A Testimonial Dinner, The Songs of XTC. In the late 1990s, Jackson expanded his classical music. He signed with Sony Classical in 1997 and released Symphony No. 1 in 1999, for which he received a Grammy for Best Pop Instrumental Album in 2001. In 2000, he released a follow-up album, Night and Day 2. In 2003, he reunited the original quartet for the album Volume 4 and a lengthy tour. In 2004, he contributed vocals to a cover of Pulp's Common People with William Shatner for Shatner's album Has Been, produced by Ben Folds. In 2005, he teamed up with Todd Rundgren for a tour of the US and Europe. A dedicated smoker, he gave up his New York apartment in 2006, partly in protest over the smoking bans, and made a Berlin neighborhood his new home. It was there that he recorded with longtime collaborators Graham Mabey and Dave Houghton his 18th studio album, Rain, which was released in January 2008. The album was followed by a 5-month tour. In 2015, Jackson announced the completion of his follow-up to 2012's The Duke via his official website. The album's title, Fast Forward, and track list were confirmed in addition to North American tour dates. The first single was released for streaming via his official SoundCloud page. The entire record was briefly posted before being taken down a day later. On the 18th of January 2019, Jackson released the album Fool. Jackson said about the album on his website, "One of my inspirations for this album was the band I've been touring with on and off for the last 3 years. I've had many different lineups, but this one is special." Jackson and the band performed Fabulously Absolute on Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show on the 21st of January 2019. Fool debuted in the top 20 album charts in Holland, Belgium, Germany, and Switzerland. In the US, it debuted at number 25 on Billboard's top album sales chart. In the UK, it entered the indie albums chart at number 13. What a Racket, also known as Mr. Joe Jackson Presents Max Champion in What a Racket, was released by Ear Music on the 24th of November 2023. It is his 21st studio album. I hope you enjoyed this video on a great piano player and one of the best crossover artists in recent memory, Joe Jackson. Now, if you've got a band or artist you'd like featured on this YouTube channel, pop it in the comments section. I'll make another video. Thanks for dropping by. Rock on.